Okay, during this video you're going to have to pause and do various things in your notebooks. And second hour you're a little bit different than 6 hour, so if I give you an instruction that you've already done, just please skip over it. But the first thing I'd like you to do is to cut out these notes that we took yesterday on arithmetic sequence, and I believe it was page 225. So please cut this out. Give yourself a title, 4-2 arithmetic sequence, and then at the bottom I would like you to glue and tape the 5 examples of arithmetic sequence. So that's cards B, H, N, K, and E. And on each of those cards I want you to write what the D value is, what the common difference is. So as you can see them here, D equals negative 1.5 means it's an arithmetic sequence. D equals negative 9/4 or negative 2.25 arithmetic. D equals 4 arithmetic, and D equals 2. So please take a minute to do that and pause the video while you do that and restart it once you're finished. Okay, the next thing we're going to look at is page 231. We already talked about in class. We took notes on it. And just to reiterate, when it's a geometric sequence, when you're multiplying by a common ratio, we use the coefficient r. And we only talk about it in terms of multiplying because dividing is really just the same as multiplying. So dividing by 10 is the same as multiplying by 1/10 and so on. Okay. At the bottom of the page, they said, what would have happened if we started a sequence with 1, but instead of having a common ratio of 2, we now are using a common ratio of 3. So how would the pattern change? It would just get larger quicker. It's still going to be geometric, and those values would look like this. It would go 1, 3, 9, 27, 81, and so on. Those are the first 5. Okay. Turn the page, and I'd like you to pause the video and take a minute to answer questions 4, 5, and 6. When you've got an idea of where that's going, then please start it and to reveal the answers. So suppose the sequence has the same starting number as the sequence in the worked example, but now the common ratio is 1/3. Well, one thing I want you to realize is when the ratio is a fraction, it's something less than 1, that really is the equivalence of dividing. So how would the pattern change? The pattern would now be going down. It'd be decreasing. It still is going to be geometric because we have a common ratio. And this is what it would look like. If we started with 1 and we multiplied by 1/3, we'd get 1/3. Multiplied again, we'd get 1/9, and so forth. Notice that our numerator is always going to stay at 1, but our denominator is tripling. Okay. Now, suppose a sequence has the same starting number. So again, we're starting at 1, but this time the common ratio is -2. So what happens when you multiply by -2? Well, the first time you multiply, you get a negative, but the second time you multiply by -2, it's going to flip us back to positive. So when you have a negative number that you're multiplying by, it's going to be increasing and decreasing and alternating back and forth between positive and negatives. So notice it goes from 1 down to -2, then back up to +4, then back to -8. Is this still geometric? Yes, because there's a common ratio of -2. We're still multiplying by the same value over and over again. And here's what this would look like. Okay. All right, consider the sequence shown. Devin says that he can determine each term of this sequence by multiplying the term by 1/3. So the common ratio is 1/3. Chase says he can determine each term of the sequence by dividing each term by 3. So the common ratio is 3. Who is correct? Well, in a way, they're both correct. They're correct in that you are multiplying by 1/3 or dividing by 3. The problem is defining common ratio. Common ratio is always what you're multiplying by. So technically, Devin is correct because R equals 1/3 is the same as dividing by 3. Okay? So now what I'd like you to do is to pull out the cards that were a geometric sequence, A, C, F, I, J, M, and P. And on those cards, I would like you to go through and write on each card that they are geometric and what the common ratios are. So please pause the video to get those done. And when you're finished, you can start the video again. Alright, so the next step is we're going to turn the page in our spiral notebooks and we're going to do the same thing we did with arithmetic, but we're going to label it geometric. So we are going to cut out the notes that were right here on page 231. And we are going to add that to our spiral notebook, just like this. And then underneath it, you're going to glue or tape these examples. If you don't mind doubling them up on top of each other, you can, or you can turn the next page and glue those down. But make sure on each card is labeled geometric with the given R value. So pause the video and get that done, and then you can restart. Okay, the last step in our video progression is I'd like you to turn to page 234. And I'd like you to read and do 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay. So you need to have that completed in your book, as well as all of this kind of put together with your notebook. And now you have the remainder of the class time to work on Cognitive Tutor. Please be good and use your time. And as a reminder, your rubrics are due next Tuesday after school. I will look at your time logs. Thank you.